Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
You don't use headphones, huh?
Messes up my hair.
Good to see you. What's
see
going
you
on
too,
your coat today? Every day is a new one.
Yeah, well, I've got this suit maker, LGFG, Dmitry, the crazy Russian, and he, pays attention to what I'm doing and makes me the suits that he thinks are suitable. And
You've
I
gotten
wear
quite
them.
extravagant, though. Like sometimes, like one half of the suit is one color.
Yeah.
Like looks like you're getting bored. You just want to switch it up a lot.
He sends me these damn things, and I get them, and I think, there's no way I wear that. There's no way I'll wear that. And then I put it on, and I think, I like that. Yeah. And Tammy puts up with it. So
Is it everyday suits now with you? Is that
I'm in a suit pretty much all the time.
is there a reason for that?
Well, the original reason was because probably because of my father. He was a teacher, and he always wore a suit, even in the 70s when that started to become, like 1950s thing. And I asked him one time why he did that, and he said it was to show respect for his students. And then when I was a professor, well, when you start to be a professor, you're not that much difference in age from your students to begin with. It's a good way of laying out a demarcation, and that was helpful. That's useful. People like to know how the hierarchies are delineated.
Right.
And professors like to think that they're everybody's buddy, but that's not the right relationship. And so that was helpful. And then when I went on tour in 2018, I realized that I was going to speak live in front of several 100,000 people over the course of the tour. And I thought, you got to think when you have an opportunity like that if you had the least amount of sense, you'd pull out all the stops. So I bought some expensive suits. And then one of the things that happened in consequence of that was that people started to come to the lectures in suits. And so I'd say about 40% of the audience dresses formally. And lots of the young guys who come, they tell me when I meet them afterwards, in the meet and greets, for example, that they bought their first suit to come to the lectures. And so, I wouldn't have ever expected that. And then Dmitry showed up about 2 years ago with this portfolio of suits. He designed one for each of the rules for my first book, and he put the rule underneath the collar at the back and designed the lining, custom lining on all the suits as well. And so I gave him a crack at it because he'd put so much work into it, and that worked out real well. He's very, very creative. Yeah, that two-color suit, there's lamb's wool on one side and goat's wool on the other, and it's a heaven and hell suit. So, Yeah, no kidding, eh? And this is covered with iconography, Christian or Catholic and Orthodox. I've got one of each, and that's because I was out on tour with my new book, which is called We Who Wrestle with God, which we will talk about today, I hope. So that's the suit
how does
story,
one wrestle
man.
with God? Do you wrestle with God?
With every word. So what does that mean? Well, look, man. Part of the reason that you're so successful, in my opinion, is because you actually say what you think. Like, you're not putting on a show. Actually, you have no reason to put on a show. You put on a whole bunch of shows, and they've already been successful. And you're actually asking the questions that are genuine questions, and people can trust you because of that. And that means that you're letting the words emerge as they come to you. And doing that with each word, that's a decision, because you can use your language to manipulate, and you can use your language for your own, say, hedonistic purposes or to gain power. Or you can just say what you think. All of those different choices are a decision. That's a wrestling. That's a moral decision. And it shines in every word. And so it's super important. That's part of the reason why in the Christian canon, the word is the basis of reality, right? It's the process that generates the order that's good out of possibility and chaos, right? And so and Israel, the word Israel means we who wrestle with God. So that's the chosen people, right? And so what that means at a deeper level even is that if you're genuinely wrestling with your conscience, then you're someone who's chosen by God. And I think that's That's right. That's accurate.
It's interesting what you just said. One of Terence McKenna's lectures, he talked about a very profound psychedelic experience that he had where he was given this revelation that the world is made out of words. That everything is made out of words. Like he had just some sort of a profound understanding of what words really mean.
Well, how much of the reality that surrounds you has been, what would you say, has emerged out of the realm of possibility because of what you've said? A lot. And you've had this huge influence on the world that's all a consequence, almost all a consequence of what you've said. And so there's an insistence in the Judeo-Christian canon that that the capacity that words have to shape possibility is akin or identical to the process that generates reality itself. And I think that's true. That's why in the opening chapters of Genesis were described as formulated in the image of God. We're like a microcosm of the process that gives rise to order itself. It's a very different view than the bottom-up materialistic view, let's say, of the Enlightenment in the scientific world. It's a different way of looking at things. It's the notion that what is in front of you is a field of indeterminate possibility. It's got some implicit structure, as the scientists insist, but it's open, and you grapple with it like you grapple with your dawning consciousness in the morning. What confronts you in the morning is a field of possibility, and you approach that with a certain kind of orientation, and you use your words and your linguistic capacity to think to shape that possibility. And if you do that properly, then you make, this is the Genesis 1 insistence again, you make the order that's good or very good, and that depends on your orientation. So in the Sermon on the Mount, for example, which is an instruction manual, Christ tells his listeners how to orient themselves in the world properly. So he says, first, aim with all your heart at the highest good you can imagine.